right, so I'm currently on the phone with Disco Don. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview series going on. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for having me. My name is Disco Don. I'm from Kansas City. I started out in hip hop, rapping, producing, and I've definitely just expanded my musical content from there.
Awesome, very cool. So, with these interviews, my objective is always to kind of figure out, what makes the person tick, kind of thing. So, why don't you go into some detail about, how you first found music? What about it, struck you and made you want to participate in it?
Growing up, I was always just indulged in music. Just stuck and listening to hip hop. And as I grew older, that expanded into classic rock, which expanded into EDM and disco and house and funk and new wave and pretty much anything you could think of. And I always, at some point, people tell you, find something you're passionate about and make it your job, make your life around that. So that's kind of what I've done in life is just dove into what I was passionate about. So I started putting out solo music, producing, rapping, and then I went to audio engineering school where I started a hip hop band, and then I started DJing as well on the side. So just the passion for music, it takes a lot of passion and dedication for someone to stick with music this long in an industry that's so difficult.
Sure. So you kind of mentioned there briefly that you kind of started with production rather than what is typically people starting with like an instrument or something like that. Is that correct?
I actually picked up viola as a kid, but sort of lost those skills growing up. But it was the hip hop and rap music that got me sucked in, and I always knew I couldn't afford to go into a studio, and spend money on a producer and beats. I always knew I had to do it myself. So that's how I just started producing on my own.
Sure. So, did you find yourself like a DAW that you learned how to use, or how did you go about, taking those first steps into producing?
Basically hooked up with a friend who was kind of already dabbling in it, for fun on the side. So I brought him in. We both had the same ideas. He kind of taught me a little bit here and there. We watched some YouTube videos basically. And at first I was self-taught, and that went on for quite a few years until I decided, I wanted to make this a full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through the proper course to go to school and learn it.
Sure. And so, going from, for lack of a better term, amateur experience, learning it on your own into a professional environment, what were some of the things you found that like you kind of look back on and realize that should have been better, or things like that?
Well, you listen to your old music and you go, "Oh wow, that recording was shit," or um, it was bedroom recording. We were using what we had available, and that's kind of what you do
Mm-hmm.
until you develop that ear for what's quality sound.
Sure. And so, what would you say your primary focus was while you were in school for audio engineering?
How can I make this a full-time career? I wanted, I know that not everyone's going to make it in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what, I still wanted to be a part of it. So I needed to learn the back end. I needed to learn more about the production, more about studio recording, more music theory as much as I could. That's when I
Mm-hmm.
took, keyboard lessons and just soaked up as much knowledge that I could. You learn music business, so that you have that back end, you know, at the same time you can make a living from helping other artists and work on your own career at the same time.
Sure. And so, going through a professional music school like that, and then also you wanting to continue to do production on your own. How did you kind of apply what you were learning to what your end goal was?
I mean, I apply it every day in the way I produce, um, the way I manage artists. Um, you take everything you've learned and you apply it, and then having a degree also helps you get those jobs, you get those gigs. You get your foot in the door here and there. You meet new people.
Mm-hmm.
You let them know that you are professionally trained, and you get your foot in the door, and it always leads to the next thing.
Sure. So that kind of leads us up to kind of where you are now. Once you got out of school, how did you kind of conceptualize what you wanted your artistry to be about? Like, what sort of message did you want to send?
So it was basically a final in my music business class, and I started a group called Cannabis Club, and that's spelled Kannabis
Mm-hmm.
Club. Um, that was a project for music business, starting a hip hop band and creating um, a small tour is what it was. So in that, I always knew I was also very passionate about the marijuana industry and legalization. So it gave me an outlet to talk about that kind of stuff in music in this group where our focus is cannabis and marijuana and that sort of shit. And we actually just got our trademark for the name Cannabis Club. So we now own our own name,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice. And I wouldn't have even learned those things if it wasn't for that music business class.
Sure, definitely. So, with that being the current project that you're working on, give some more detail about it aside from just message wise. Like, are you guys in the studio recording? How many people are you working with? Like that type of stuff.
So, long story short, I'm in LA now. I've branched out. We Cannabis Club won Best Group in Kansas City in 2017, and then we were nominated for Best Band for the next 3 years in
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City. And I kind of decided and realized that there's not too much room for growth there. Kansas City has a great underground music um, collective, but
Mm-hmm.
the industry isn't there and labels aren't there. And to make this something bigger, I needed to branch out. So I've recently relocated to Los Angeles, and the rest of the band is still in Kansas City. But through the pandemic, we've learned how to work remotely,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm basically out here promoting the brand, pushing a business, and just expanding our audience. So on top of Cannabis Club, I also DJ on the side with my fiance Alex as DNA. That was something I sort of picked up right out of music school as well, and we just gig here and there. Right now, we've got a gig coming up this Sunday in Hollywood, and so I'm always focused on different things, but those are the top two brands that I'm currently working on.
Sure, definitely. So, where would you like to see kind of yourself as a musician be in 5 or 10 years? You mentioned that you were looking for growth. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot. You come out to LA, you see the opportunities. The Grammys were just last night. The Oscars were this week or last week. Um, that's something you always got to look at. As a musician, that's sort of goals right there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're out in LA, it's not. It feels like some things are at reach. You can reach more people. There's industry out here, and people take music a lot more serious out here. So as far as goals, I'd love the band to relocate here. I'd love to be signed. Um, and I'd love to keep doing shows. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I love DJing and I love performing live. So that's really what I want to do.
Sure.
On the back end of that, I still am an audio engineer. So I work at a few recording studios, and I like to help out other artists at the same time.
Awesome. Very cool. That's really unique that you're, in a position where, you can do that professionally for, other projects that are going on, but then also
Exactly.
kind of use it for your artistry as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I love to see everyone make it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not all about me. I like to be a part of good music in general.
Sure. So what are some of your favorite memories of, the time that you spent in music, whether it was, learning viola or learning production? What are some moments that like motivate you, stand out to you, and make you keep going?
Probably winning that best group in 2017. Best group of Kansas City was definitely a highlight of my career. Um, and I owe it to working with other artists. As a solo artist, I feel like it can be more difficult to reach as many people, and to bring in all those other ideas. I think really just helps overall, and that was just a really awesome experience to get up and go in front of a crowd and accept the award, and just show people that we're on the right path.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Um, so what are the social media links where people can check you out and take a listen to the stuff that you're putting out?
Okay. So currently we've got a gig this Sunday at, let's see, Station 1640 in Hollywood. Um, you can get $5 off promo code with DNA if you go to the eventbrite.com site, and that's going to be, you can look for the Superstation, the Eventbrite. You can follow us at DNA Party Music on Instagram and Facebook. That's at DNA Party Music. And then as far as Cannabis Club goes, you can follow us on Instagram at Cannabis Club, spelled with a K, because it makes the initials KC. If no one figured that out yet. and and Instagram, I'm sorry, that was Instagram. And then Facebook at Cannabis Club 420.
Awesome. Excellent. And so I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So just a message that you generally resonate with that you want to put out there.
Smoke that shit, man.